What happens when two rival powerful countries share a direct border? The answer is blood. The First World War and the Second World War showed us what can happen when great powers collide. We learned that it's difficult for two empires to be directly next to each other without it ending in a massive war. That's why we needed to create what we call buffer states, countries that serve as barriers between two powerful nations. These countries have different ways to avoid conflict, from staying neutral and avoiding involvement, to using force as a deterrent or for defense. And now, we will talk about the countries that serve as the world's shields. These are the sacrifices of geopolitics. Countries that, if they fall, could cause a global tragedy. These are the top 10 buffer states that prevent the world from completely erupting into war. But before we start, if you're new to our channel, make sure to subscribe so you'll always be updated with videos like this. Number 10, Afghanistan. Afghanistan is considered one of the very first buffer states in the world, formed because of the rivalry between great empires. If you look at its map, you'll notice something unusual: a narrow strip of land jutting out to the east. This is what is called the Wakhan Corridor. It wasn't naturally formed that way. It was deliberately drawn in the 19th century to serve as a narrow strip of land separating the Russian Empire and British India. In some parts, it's only about 15 kilometers wide. The goal was to make sure the two powerful empires would not meet directly. Afghanistan itself is like a trap for armies. Its geography was not made for easy crossing, but to slow down and weaken the armies trying to conquer it. The British, Soviets, and even the Americans learned this the hard way. Whenever a powerful country tries to expand its influence in Afghanistan, it often results in heavy costs, defeat, and retreat. This is no ordinary country. It is a graveyard of empires, a place that gradually drains the strength of any power that tries to conquer it. And even today, Afghanistan's role as a buffer state remains important. It separates Russia's influence in Central Asia from the nuclear powers of Pakistan and India. It serves as a barrier against chaos. The unstable situation inside the country, along with its extremely difficult terrain, acts as a natural insulator. It prevents tensions from spreading from South Asia towards the former Soviet Union territories in the north. In simple terms, it remains important because it is a place where no powerful country can easily establish permanent control. Number 9, Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is a major defense problem for Russia. Together, they have the longest continuous land border in the world, stretching for almost 7,000 kilometers of vast and open land. It's so vast that it's impossible to fully monitor. And for Russia, this is considered the weak spot in its southern defenses. If this giant country falls under a hostile foreign influence, it will be much harder for Russia to protect its southern region. This could expose Russia's vital industrial centers to the possibility of direct attack. For China, Kazakhstan is not just a barrier against Russia, it is also an important route. It serves as the land bridge of the new Silk Road that connects China's factories to Europe without having to pass through sea routes controlled by the United States. Moreover, Kazakhstan is also very important because of its large reserves of uranium and other natural resources. It's not just a bottleneck, it's also a repository of vital energy and mineral resources that are important to both Russia and China. Because of this, these countries are forced to cooperate with each other. The main role of Kazakhstan is to prevent the return of a new great game, a dangerous rivalry of major powers. Kazakhstan does this by carefully balancing its relations with different countries. It does not want to be completely subservient to just one side. Because if Kazakhstan falls, a major race could immediately begin between Russia, China, and the West to control the heart of Central Asia. And the battle for control over its natural resources and strategic territory could ignite a massive conflict that might spread across the entire continent. Number 8, Nepal. Nepal is caught between two giant countries, China and India, with a combined population of over 2.8 billion people. Unlike other borders, there is no vast empty space here. This region is very crowded and densely populated. If Nepal did not exist as an independent buffer state, it would be very difficult to control the direct tension between the two most populous nuclear powers in the world. The main role of Nepal is to serve as a physical barrier that is very difficult to cross. While Kazakhstan provides a vast horizontal distance, Nepal provides a vertical barrier, the Himalayas. Because of this geography, it is very difficult to conduct large-scale modern warfare. At heights reaching 8,000 meters, tanks and heavy military equipment are almost useless. Nature itself has created a unique death zone here, a place where an assault can become a logistical nightmare. In short, geography forces both major powers to maintain peace because attempting to invade the other side over the roof of the world is almost suicidal. Nepal is extremely important, especially for India's security. It serves as a shield for the Siliguri corridor, a narrow strip of land that's only about 22 kilometers wide. If Nepal completely falls under China's influence, India's connection to its northeastern region could be cut off with just one strategic move. Nepal prevents chaos in Asia simply by being an almost immovable barrier. Number 7. Mongolia. Mongolia is the perfect example of what we call a no man's land, a country caught between two giants. It is situated between Russia and China, two countries with very long borders and a long history of conflict. Mongolia's role is simply to survive. Instead, it is a vast empty space that stretches over millions of square kilometers of wide steppes. And the most important thing that Mongolia provides to its neighbors is a crucial resource in modern warfare: distance. Imagine if there were a direct 4,600-kilometer border between Moscow and Beijing that was fully militarized. It would be a massive logistical nightmare. Both countries would exhaust their resources and strength. And this is where Mongolia comes in. By simply being a natural buffer zone, it reduces direct tension between the two powers. It allows the Russian bear and the Chinese dragon to keep their distance in this region, while they focus their forces on their other, more important strategic fronts. The safety of Mongolia depends on a paradox. It is safe because it is not considered a major threat. Unlike other countries, its militarization and infrastructure are limited. It remains a neutral space between two powerful countries, like a vast ocean of land separating Russia and China. And because the area between them is vast and sparsely populated, it's difficult for a small spark of tension to spread quickly. Number 6. Belarus. To understand Belarus, you need to look at the map from the perspective of a Russian general. This country lies on the route to Smolensk, the historic plain crossed by the armies of Napoleon and Hitler when they invaded Russia and tried to capture Moscow. Without Belarus as a buffer, NATO tanks could be positioned less than 500 kilometers from Moscow. For Russia, that's too close. It could give the Kremlin very little time to react to a sudden attack. But unlike neutral buffer states, Belarus is a kind of zombie buffer state. It looks like an independent country, but its security and defense are highly dependent on Russia. The Kremlin has made the territory of Belarus an important strategic buffer. It has been equipped with air defense systems and, in recent years, has also been allowed to have nuclear weapons there. Its goal is not to be friends with the West. Instead, its aim is to extend the Russian security umbrella farther beyond Russia's own borders. In this way, it serves as a barrier that prevents a direct confrontation between Russia and NATO, because it clearly shows how far Western influence can reach. If NATO tries to include Belarus in their sphere of influence, similar to the tensions in Ukraine, Russia may consider this as an immediate existential threat. That's why Belarus remains a strict buffer zone. As long as Alexander Lukashenko remains in power and Belarus stays close to Moscow, the likelihood that Russia will feel the need to use its most dangerous weapons is lower. Number 5. Jordan. Jordan is one of the classic buffer states in the world. Its creation was so artificial that there's a joke saying Winston Churchill made it while he was hiccuping. But joke or not, Jordan plays an important role in the region. It serves as a wedge or barrier that separates Israel from the surrounding Arab powers. including Iraq and Saudi Arabia, as well as from the expanding influence of Iran in the region. If Jordan were not in the middle, the so-called Shiite influence could reach more directly. But Jordan is not just a passive buffer, it also serves as an active filter. Although many of its citizens support the cause of the Palestinians, the monarchy of Jordan maintains a cold but stable peace with Israel because it is important for security. This became clear recently when Jordan intercepted Iranian missiles that passed through its airspace. In this way, it serves as a kind of external security umbrella. It tries to intercept and neutralize threats from the air before they reach Israeli territory and cause a bigger retaliation. Its goal is to prevent a domino effect. Jordan protects one of Israel's most important borders. If the monarchy falls and the country becomes radical, Israel will lose its buffer zone. Instead of a peaceful border, it could become a direct front line of a large-scale war right in Israel's own backyard. So in one of the most turbulent regions in the world, Jordan simply remaining stable could help prevent a larger war. Number 4, North Korea. From a purely strategic standpoint, North Korea is an anomaly that should have collapsed a long time ago. But there's a simple reason why it continues to survive. China needs it. For Beijing, the North Korean regime is not just an ideological ally. It is also an important defensive barrier. China is less afraid of Kim's nuclear weapons than of what might happen if his regime collapses. Because if the two Koreas unite, there could be U.S. military bases and American soldiers right next to China's border, near the Yalu River. Unlike other buffer states that try to be neutral or unnoticed, North Korea plays its role by being loud and aggressive. It's like a fierce dog tied to China's gate. As long as it continues to threaten Seoul and Tokyo, Washington is forced to focus a large portion of its military resources on containing North Korea. And because of this, the attention that the United States can give to the broader expansion of China's influence is reduced. This is a perfect geopolitical distraction that is maintained through food, oil, and other aid. North Korea helps prevent a larger war because of a harsh irony. The current situation is bad, but the alternative could be worse. If this buffer state were to suddenly collapse now, it could trigger a desperate race among different powers to seize control of its nuclear weapons and occupy its territory. North Korea remains because no one wants to pay the enormous price of its disappearance. Number 3. Moldova is one of the weakest countries in Europe. It is a small country squeezed between NATO in the west and the war in Ukraine to the east. Unlike some of its neighbors, Moldova has no military alliance that directly provides it with protection. Its main defense is its fragile constitutional neutrality, and this neutrality helps it remain a physical buffer between Russia and the NATO-allied countries. On the eastern side of Moldova lies Transnistria, a pro-Russian separatist region where Moscow-backed troops remain present. Because of this, there is a major security problem for Moldova. Transnistria is also home to the Kabazna ammunition depot, which contains a huge amount of old Soviet-era ammunition and military equipment. The presence of Russia in this region is also one of the reasons why it is very difficult for Moldova to join NATO. Because there is a part of its territory that is not fully controlled by the government in Chisinau, any attempt to join a military alliance becomes more complicated. In this situation, Moldova serves as a kind of strategic freeze point in Eastern Europe. If Russia tries to occupy Moldova and connect it to the forces in Transnistria, it could cross a massive regime. If Moldova tries to connect itself to the forces in Transnistria, it could also lead to a very painful balance, not completely on Russia's side, but also not fully integrated into the Western military alliance. And in the midst of all this, it serves as a buffer that helps prevent the Black Sea region from becoming the center of a full-scale war. Number 2, Ukraine. Ukraine is a perfect example of a country that became a victim of its own geography. It is a vast plain with almost no high mountains or natural barriers. Historically, it has served as a highway for empires. It can be used as a route to invade Russia from the west or as a way for Russia to project its power toward Europe. For the Kremlin, Ukraine is a very important buffer zone that protects the European heartland of Russia. For many decades, Ukraine has been the perfect buffer. As long as it remains a neutral transit zone, both Moscow and NATO can stay calm without their armies facing each other. But geopolitics does not forgive a power vacuum. When the government of Ukraine began to become more pro-Western, it started to lose its former buffer status. Diplomatic tensions deepened, and the country was divided between two opposing geopolitical blocs. And as a result, the largest war in Europe since the Second World War broke out. Now, Ukraine is playing one of the most painful roles of all. It is a besieged bottleneck where Russia and NATO test their strength, while the greatest cost is the lives and future of the Ukrainians. At present, Ukraine is blocking a massive conventional military force, and without it, things could be much worse. It is positioned directly near the borders of NATO. If this wall completely collapses, the distance between the two major powers could disappear, and at that point, they could face each other directly, while the nuclear option remains a looming possibility on both sides. Number 1, Taiwan. If there's one place where World War III could start, this is one of the most dangerous places. Taiwan is considered the most important buffer in the Pacific Ocean. Geographically, it serves as a kind of lock on the so-called First Island chain. As long as Beijing does not control Taiwan, the Chinese Navy's ability to get out of the First Island chain and project power into the vast Pacific remains limited. For Washington, Taiwan is like an unsinkable aircraft carrier. It's a strategic position that helps protect its allies. For China, Taiwan is an important key to breaking out of what is called strategic containment. Without Taiwan under its control, it will be harder for China to achieve broad military influence in the Pacific and beyond. And this is where a huge paradox arises. Two giant powers are facing each other on opposite sides of the Taiwan Strait. Both have enormous military capability, but the current status quo in Taiwan serves as an invisible wall that prevents them from clashing head-on. And Taiwan's greatest defense might not be its missiles, but its microchips. Taiwan produces a large portion of the world's most advanced semiconductors. This creates what is called a silicon shield. If Taiwan is invaded and its semiconductor industry is destroyed, it could have a massive impact on the global economy. It would affect not only the potential attacker, but also Taiwan itself and the entire world. In other words, Taiwan helps prevent a global war because the cost of its destruction would be too high for everyone. After our journey from the mountains of the Himalayas to the vast plains of Europe, the answer to the question we started with is frightening. We have seen that peace between rival powers is not always maintained because of good intentions. Sometimes it is maintained because of distance, whether through the vast expanse of Mongolia, the nearly impossible geography of Nepal, or the economic consequences surrounding Taiwan. These 10 countries show how the world works like a nuclear reactor. To prevent it from melting down, the fuel rods must not touch each other. And these countries serve as the graphite, insulation, and coolant that prevent overheating. They're the countries forced to live under extreme pressure. They know that one of the most important reasons for their existence is to prevent the major powers from destroying each other, and in the process, dragging the whole world with them.